Welcome back to Rise to Liberty podcast. Today we have a very special guest who has decided to grace us with her time that she has very limited of, and we'll get into why. But today's guest is Hannah Goodman, the chair of Libertarian Party of Colorado. How are you doing today, Hannah?
I'm great. Happy to be here. It's super exciting to be able to have conversations about all the really interesting things that we're doing here in Colorado.
Yes, of course. And some people love it, support it. Some people loathe it, and it's the worst thing possible. And I think we'll cover that. We'll get into that.
I think that's generally my MO. People either love me or they hate me. They either love what I do or they hate what I do. There is no middle ground feeling surrounding me at all times ever. So it's just kind of, I'm used to it. So, that's fine. People really know how they feel about me. And so I'm not one of those people you'll just pass over and never remember.
Well, personally, I prefer it that way for myself. I don't like the middle ground of, they're just okay. That has always bothered me. Great. Now I've told the whole world, but I do find it interesting, just kind of the reaction. I think there are valid criticisms on the other side,
Oh, sorry.
but there's like some fundamental things that are being missed by the people who are critical of this. I think I don't think that there are many good stances as far as like the final stance, whether this is right or not. I personally believe that that part is wrong as far as the critics go, but we'll get more into that a little bit later. So who is Hannah? What do you do for the party? What have you done for the party? Let's get into that.
Great. So, yeah, I am Hannah Goodman. I'm the chairwoman of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. I formerly served a term as vice chairman of the party. I am Mises Caucus. It's no secret. I've always towed a really hard, strong, principled Mises line. And unlike most people in the Mises Caucus, I didn't get here through Dave Smith, which is totally fine if other people have. That's not really my avenue into the caucus, which I think gives me a unique edge. And also, the reason I joined Mises is probably underlays all of the principles and the hardcore stances I take on things. I joined the Mises Caucus because I read Mises' work, Human Action. After reading all of Ayn Rand's work, I dipped into some other libertarian work, and I came across Mises, and I'm like, I want to read this. And I read everything. So 7 months later, I was completely radicalized, and I just so happened to, at the same time, stumble upon the Mises Caucus. And at that time, I was running for a local office here in my town for city council, and I had contacted the state party to just be included in nonpartisan numbers for candidates, and I was completely ignored. And I'm like, I went to the trouble of getting on the ballot all by myself, and you're not even going to give me a recognition with the rest of the candidates because you deem this office too lowly. It just didn't set right with me. And then I almost quit the party, but I heard I had joined the Mises Caucus prior to this while I was running for city council. And I'm hearing all of this like, no, this is where you need to be. This is local. This is the most important thing you can do. If your state party is not focusing on local or decentralized things, you can take over your state party. And well, boy, did I. The team and I, we had one of the most complete and successful takeovers of a state board, and we've retained it to date. With that, we've been able to really try a bunch of different radical approaches to politics. We're actually playing politics. I think that before we came, and you still see it now in this controversy, there's these people who are like, party, only the party. We only are active in the party. It's never I am in this party, but I'm active outside of this party, bringing this party to the forefront of voters across my state or community or whatever your focus is. And I think that's really sad because, yeah, I'm a libertarian, but guess what? I don't want to take on other libertarians. I don't know about the rest of you guys. I want to give it to the state. I want to break the duopoly that holds our political system in a stranglehold. And if you know that and you understand that's my premise for everything, every other thing I've done lined up makes complete sense with that metric. And I'm also famous for the GOP deal. When I took the chair of Colorado, I know Dave Williams, the chair of the GOP here in Colorado. I've worked with him since 2017 on anti-vaccine issues when he was in the state legislature. And Phillips County, where I live, is a super active county for politics. So even though I'm 3 hours from the Front Range, I know everyone in the state on the state level politics. And I've been able to network from my own home, or my own community rather, to be able to create alliances and coalitions and try and see where can the Libertarian Party actually make a difference outside of the party. Because yeah, we could sit around fighting each other all day long, but I don't know about you, but man, I'm dying for liberty out here, and we can fight about anything. We're libertarians. But at the end of the day, we can fight each other or we can suffer and die. Those are our options. Those are the options on the table. I mean, today, look at what just happened an hour ago.
Yes.
An hour ago. I want people to understand the levity of the situation of the political structure within the United States. This is massively bad. We are a critical mass here. So I guess we can sit around fighting each other in the party and being active in the party. Or we could focus our energy and attention outside and make a real difference and be active in that way. And that really, I really want people to take that deep into their soul tonight, because that's exactly what the issue going on currently is. If you just break it down simply, people don't like what I do. But my goal isn't to be popular in the party. My goal is to crush the state because it's our enemy. So with that, yeah.
Yeah. I was just curious, were you always a libertarian? Did you come into it from another party? Did you how did you discover it?
Well, really quick, I see a comment. I wanted to say hello to Nate. I'm so glad you jumped on and you've been super supportive, and I appreciate that. What was your question?
Where did you find libertarianism, or did you come in from another party? Or
I only really became politically active fighting the vaccine issues. I lived in California for a time and I fought it there.
that'll do it.
And I moved home and I fought it here. I moved home and I was confronted with the same exact issue. And that was the only thing I cared about. I wasn't even registered to vote. My family's political. I understand how to work politicians. I understand political organizing. I've seen it done my whole life. So jumping in on a political issue, yeah, I'm like contacting my state legislature. I mean, all the way down to the local level. Where I enter politics is during that time, I reached out to my grandfather, who was a sitting county commissioner here. And I'm like, hey, you helped get these people elected. Help me fight for my rights. Will you write them? Will you call them? Will you see what you can do to help me? And my grandfather was horrified. I didn't vaccinate my children. And this is like 2017 going into 2018. And if I knew he had such a problem, I would never have told him. I would have never asked for his help. It's no secret I don't vaccinate my children. So I was shocked that he was shocked, and it was a huge blowout. And basically I was like, you're a Republican, you're for liberty. What? Because that's what I had always heard. And I hadn't really been involved with it. And he stuttered, and he's like, well, if you can do a better job, then you just go on ahead and do it. And I'm like, oh no, well, I'm not a Republican. I certainly know I'm not a Democrat. I was raised by them. Well, what am I? And I had a friend, she recommended Ayn Rand, and Ayn Rand completely changed my whole life. I've read everything Ayn Rand ever wrote. I'm not an objectivist, but I'm pretty close. I'm pretty closely aligned with them. And after studying, that's when I was like, okay, I'm a libertarian. I found the Libertarian Party through her works because she talked bad about it. And I was like, what's this Libertarian Party? I've never even heard of that. And I Googled it. And for the life of me, I was like, how is this not the same thing Ayn Rand wrote about? And it is mostly. I see where the differences are. But it's pretty much libertarian.
Yeah.
She's like rolling in her grave. Whatever. It's fine. So with that, I was like, okay, so I'm a libertarian, so I want to become county commissioner just because, like, I'll die on a hill. I don't care.
Yeah.
Somebody challenges me to something. My grandfather, when he offered that challenge, and I said, okay, fine. I'm gonna. He just like backed up and he's like, oh my God, of all my grandchildren, why did I offer her that challenge? She's gonna take it. So then I ran for city council, and that's really where I got involved. But I have several years worth of reading before fully joining the party. I believe that if you're going to make a decision, you need to be fully educated on it to the best of your ability. And that's really what I did.
So when you joined the party, was it what you thought it was going to be or not?
No. Growing up in a hugely influential political family, and seeing the inner workings of like the Democratic Party, for instance, and then later the Republican Party, this is nothing like I've ever seen a political party operate. There's really fine points that I really admire, and that's why I'm here. And there's other points that I just think I'm like, well, that's, probably why that you're just a minor party still, actually. Truth be told, the finer parts are the amount of power an individual has within this party. And as I got my start with Ayn Rand, the power of the individual is like the most important thing in my life. And so I really love that it champions the individual and that it really speaks to the principles and the ideas of liberty, because that's what makes my heart sing.
So all the critics saying you're not a libertarian are not right?
Well, I think that's just a cheap and sorry excuse for an argument. They may completely disagree with my actions, and they may completely disagree with the way that I go about expressing my libertarianism. But I think that it's a lazy argument to say that I'm not a libertarian, because I would be hard pressed to find somebody that's read more in anything, much less libertarianism, as I am. I do not watch TV. I do not consume large amounts of social media. I read. So when I'm not working, I'm reading. And a lot of times when I'm working, I am reading. I can cook and read. I can multitask really well in ways like that. So, I'm finishing 3 to 5 books a week. Most of them are nonfiction. So I'm really well versed in the philosophy of libertarianism. And so for people to say, oh, she's not a real libertarian. Okay, well, by what standard? What's your metric? Give me your argument. Just making a blanket statement isn't an argument.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think it's interesting, the no true Scotsman fallacy. It's like, who are you to say? There are definitely people within the party who I would take their opinion more to heart than others.
Mm-hmm.
But that still doesn't mean that just one person or even a smaller group of people are the authority on that.
Absolutely.
Especially to somebody who actually is a libertarian. So I did kind of want to point that out, because even though I think there are some fair criticisms, I do not believe this one to be one. It's very clear you are a libertarian. You're not a shill for another party, it doesn't seem. I can't imagine what. And what's the point of another party trying to take over the Libertarian Party? I don't know. They don't care about us. So
they literally have two-party status. What
yes.
purpose? Like, what would, if anything, just from Mises Caucus alone, something I've contemplated is this is a massive voting block. If anything, we could essentially emerge out of the Libertarian Party and take over whatever party we wanted. And we know how to politically organize. We know how to effectively take over political revolutions. Like, we know how to do these things. If anything, we would be leaving the Libertarian Party to take over these other failing, decrepit, whatever husks of former parties that they once were back in the day. That actually would make more sense. And I mean, and then people being like, you're a sellout. If I wanted to sell out, I would take me and my faction with me and we'd go make money. I've been offered money to chair political parties in the two-party system and I turned it down. I had too much money that day. I currently still have too much money. Even if there's $0 in my bank account, I don't have enough money to do that job because my heart wouldn't be in it. And I don't believe in those parties. Now, if I moved effectively out of this party with a massive machine like the Mises Caucus, because we're going to turn it into that. But I don't think that's really a viable option either. There's so many things we don't know because the way that the Libertarian Party operates versus the way that the two major parties operate are a lot of times vastly different. We don't have like in Colorado, we don't caucus the same way. We don't. What would we know about caucusing on the local level? Most of us have never done that. Where you meet in your precincts and all of, and then the way that political structure is wired is very top down. Members don't really have a ton of rights in those structures. So it would be a lot of work to do that. But so that's a big difference. That the Libertarian Party compared to the other two parties, is so vastly different. But yeah, I'm not a sellout. We straddle the poverty line around here. I'll die for an idea, though.
It's especially one that's correct, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm totally with you on that. There are certain ideas that I have no problem dying for, and liberty is definitely at the top of that list. Go ahead.
I also am known to be very open-minded. So when presented with a good argument, I can be swayed in a direction. But I have to apply my rational mind to that only I have the ability to control. So you cannot manipulate me into a direction. You cannot bully me into a direction. You cannot intimidate. None of these things. If you present me a good argument, I'm really easy to pivot. My board can attest to that. Actually, in this exact sphere, initially they were very upset about the Chase Termat ticket. And I mean, I wasn't excited. I was not excited. I'm like, okay, damn, how are we going to recover our relationships in Colorado? How am I going to spin this? In politics, everything is the spin. And they're just like really upset. I'm like, no, guys, we're just going to take it. We're going to just take it. We're going to take our come-ups. We're just going to figure out how to make this work. Like, this is what needs to be done. And they were like, hey, hold on. No, this is not what needs to be done. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yes, this is absolutely, but going back and forth with all the members on my board as to why taking off Chase Oliver and Mike Tremont from our presidential ticket, why that was principled and why I should believe it, I was able to turn and say, actually, those are really good arguments. And it does fit everything that we are trying to do here in Colorado. And I'm definitely going to back you guys. So, because I was initially like, I'm not doing that. No, come ups. That's how politics works. You just take it on the chin and move on. So it's been interesting how it's turned out, but I initially wasn't in favor of doing this.
So I do find that interesting. The way that I've seen this, it seems to have happened in 3 stages. First was removing Chase and Termont from the ballot, or not backing him, not getting him on the ballot. And then the idea of Kennedy comes in, and now it kind of seems like that we're in this third section of what is the result of that. I definitely have to say I am similar in the sense that I will gladly change my my ideas, my feelings about certain things. I'm trying to think too far ahead of time with what I'm saying, but I will gladly change my mind if presented with better evidence, better arguments. I've done it before. I can admit when I'm wrong. So I fully waited several days after hearing what was happening before I even decided to make up my mind. I wasn't sure about it at first. I was confused, like, exactly what's going on. Are you sure that's not against the bylaws? These different things. Like, I'm not going to just knee-jerk reaction. I think that's fine if other people want to do it, but you should recognize it for what it is. It's a knee-jerk reaction. So initially, it seems like it wasn't your idea. You weren't comfortable with it, is what you said. And so really, how did all of this transpire from the idea to the execution? And what was the overall argument for why that's the principled position?
So we'll go back to taking off Chase Oliver and Mike Tremont on that ticket. So they passed this resolution, and I still was kind of like, I don't know. But I felt like, okay, well, having nobody is better than having them, actually. And I'm like, okay, in that resolution, it says that we'll look for other options. So up to this, I'm like, I don't think so. They're like, no, we really can't have him. The reason for the party is to hit all of these different things. And this campaign really doesn't align there. We're losing. I mean, I immediately lost an affiliates director. I immediately received many emails about how much people hated the Oliver Chase Termont ticket. They blamed me. I'm like, I don't think you guys know how this works. Colorado noted them. So we're with you. There was really just a lot of hate. I lost a lot of donations, reoccurring donations, a big reoccurring donation of a $50 reoccurring donation every month. Like those are, I was like, I feel that. And so they're like, this campaign's not going to increase votes. It's not going to increase revenue. It's not going to do any benefits for the party. We're supposed to be running really solid people for our offices here, and this just doesn't do it. Not only that, but he said things like he doesn't think that puberty blockers or chemical castration of children is a NAP violation. He fully supports those options. We're in Colorado, our biggest issues are like COVID, transing kids, and like, of course, like regular things like our monetary policy and things like that. But here in Colorado, we had these incredible lockdowns, mask mandates. I was asked to speak on behalf of healthcare workers in my own community who couldn't speak up for themselves, or they would face being fired by the hospital here, to beg the county commissioners to give medical amnesty in Phillips County, which our county commissioners turned down because they liked the COVID money. So they sold out their own people to collect money from the government, right? These are huge things that have deeply impacted Colorado. And so they really despised and despise his view of all of the COVID policies and tyranny that came down. Another thing, and we brought all of these concerns to the Oliver Termont team. And one of them was also like understanding that the regime is who the opposition is. So the regime pushes the COVID narrative. The regime pushes the transing kids narrative. The regime also pushes this, let's, use our political justice system and weaponize it against former presidents we dislike. And boy, isn't that a relevant thing in this particular conversation right now. And I made the point, like, you see Chase making fun of him being a felon, and he's like, I'm not a felon. How many libertarians in this party are felons?
Yeah.
Probably more than you think. Right? So, and not recognizing and being unwilling to recognize that the regime is using the justice system for its own political ends, which is also a NAP violation, right? When we use the justice system to oppress people, that's literally using the strong arm of the state to stick a boot on their neck forcefully. And then you're going to laugh and be like, haha, that guy, he's being persecuted by the state. Haha, we don't like him. We don't like Trump either, okay? Like, mostly, I mean, he's hilarious, not gonna lie. He can be very funny.
I can agree with that. 100%.
For that, yes. We like Trump for that. A lot of his other policies we're just not fans of, but that doesn't mean he should be persecuted by the state. Because guess what happens? When that starts being the status quo, guess who they come for next? Right? You think it's I don't know, their friends. No, it's political dissidents. And I hate to break it to the libertarians in the Libertarian Party. Being a libertarian is a political dissident. That's what you are. You're anti-state. That's a thing. That's a fact. If you're a real libertarian, the only thing we may only agree on is that our enemy is the state. So why are we going to celebrate when the state is effectively weaponized against someone? And now you see the hyper-politicized world and these things going on, and look at the state of chaos we're in today. Like, so these are really real life issues that we have that we really feel very strongly about. And we gave Chase Oliver and Mike Tremont a chance. They said they were going to sue us. And then they were like, it was recommended to them, well, have you reached out and even tried having a conversation, which they had not. And I told them both, I said, it is not my duty to reach out to you. You want on my ballot. I don't want you on my ballot. If you want to get on my ballot, you come talk to me. We can have a conversation, but I'm certainly not chasing you. Pun intended. So, they never, until they wanted to sue us, wasn't even recommended that they meet with us. So when the resolution was passed that we would look for other options, I was immediately looking for other options and exploring all avenues. So the RFK campaign had reached out to us, and they were, exploring what that would look like. And I brought some information back to my board, and they were like, well, what can we get out of them? What if we could get them to sign the pledge? And with the GOP deal, Colorado issues what's called the Liberty Pledge to candidates outside of our party, where if they will uphold the tenets that we've drafted on these pledges, a libertarian will not run against them. It is fully at the behest of the delegates at convention, or if there's a candidate in that race, it's up to that candidate whether or not they're willing to accept that pledge. But every time we've had one come through, the candidate and the delegates have supported it. So that's effective. So my board was like, well, with that same tenet, can we draft a presidential pledge and see, there's all these issues people dislike that are libertarians come out of the RFK platform. How can we influence this? How can we push this in the direction we want? How can we advance liberty through this campaign? So we drafted the pledge, and surprisingly, he signed it. It's literally over there. It's sitting on a table over there. I have the physical copy that's been signed by him. And with that, as soon as he signed it, we started seeing a change in his messaging to really adhere to the tenets on this pledge. And so if anything, we just were able, if this is the only thing we gain from this, we effectively were able to push somebody in the direction of liberty with a much larger platform than the Libertarian Party could ever hope to dream to have. That's a win we've already got, right? So after the Chase Termat meeting, I had scheduled a special meeting so that I could fully disclose that with my board, as well as present them with the pledge I also happened to get from Kennedy that morning, which shocked me. And when I went to my board and said, Chase is unwilling to move off of these issues that you guys find so fundamentally important, especially for a libertarian presidential candidate, and I have this signed pledge, they immediately wanted to do a vote. So we left that, and I was anticipating that vote to take place on our board meeting. I didn't anticipate any vote coming out of this special meeting. And so they wanted to push forward and push forward with that. So we get there, and upon announcing that, then there's been this uproar. And I don't want to get too far into the bylaws issues, because that's really, guys, that's what the judicial committees are for. Like, I'm sure they're not excited to do a bunch of work, but they signed up for it. And this is what they're for, right? We don't feel like we've broken bylaws to do this. We went through the bylaws and all of these different things. And I'm like, because we can't break bylaws, because if you break a bylaw, it's no one, like, it doesn't matter what we're trying to do. It's never going to get done. You can't do it. So we need to make sure that what we're doing actually is effective and we can actually do it. Because there's no sense in breaking a bylaw, because you're not going to, it doesn't work, right? Because eventually you're going to have to, like, not do that thing anymore. So we really feel like we weren't breaking bylaws, but we got to let things play out in that direction. And then, of course, the huge backlash. I feel like haters are really loud and supporters are really quiet. But I was told that from a young age, for every, like, really loud hater, you'll have about 20 silent supporters. And it's just hard because you can't hear those supporters. And so it feels very lonely. And I got to be honest, that's true.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. It seems from my experience that there is a lot more support for this than you would probably think. It seems as though a lot of people who do support it don't want to argue about it. Not because they aren't willing to discuss the ideas, but because they don't want the hassle of a big to do. It's not worth it. Libertarians love to argue. Of course, they would defend their position, I'm sure. But there's times to argue that it's worth it, and then there's times where it's not. And I guarantee that most of these supporters don't feel that arguing is going to do good with this. So that's interesting that it was brought to the Oliver Termont campaign beforehand. Because I didn't know that. Of course, I'm not in Colorado, although I am a neighbor over in Utah. That is interesting, and I had heard that people had brought concerns to his campaign. So I actually do find that interesting. And so, just for clarification, after they said that they weren't going to change that or address it, or it was just going to stay how it was, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, and it's unfortunate because we could have just had a little bit of compromise from them and had no problems.
Yeah.
But being so unwilling to compromise, when you swear up and down you want our ballot access, like, nothing, he did say for the COVID thing, he's like, I can totally, disavow that. And there was, there was 2 other things on the list. But these ones, they were just like, yep, nope, that's not an app violation. Like, so at what point is child abuse then? Yeah. I mean, you're physically altering the body of a child irreparably. So how is that not harm?
No.
I started having kids at 18, right? Well, 17, technically. I was a teen mom. And I think back and I'm like, how I've changed in all of that time, right? all of the things I thought in my youth, I mostly don't think now. And I'm blessed that I'm able to change and grow as a person, right? But I can't imagine having my body permanently altered, permanently, not even just like a tattoo. I mean, I had a friend, she had a tattoo. She was like 15 and we all thought it was so cool. I don't know what she thinks now, but she's probably like, that was really stupid. And that's a minor tweak. That's a permanent thing. And you're not allowed to do that till a certain age, 18 or whatever in most states. So why would we consider permanently physically altering children not harm? So then what is harm? We really have to determine what that is. And I do believe harming your children is physically altering them, because then it doesn't allow them the choice or the freedom to grow and change as a person. And what they think at this time may not even be at all a thought in 15 years, in 25 years, in 60 years. So I feel like, and not only that, but the regime pushing all of this and the corporations that control everything. This is in the best interest of corporations for people to have these procedures and be on these medications. And, the healthcare corporation is something, right? And it's the biggest lobby in Washington. And now we have all of these crazy things. It's no wonder, right? So instead of a war in the Middle East for oil, we now have a war on people to get them to take all of these pharmaceuticals and things like that. And I'm not disavowing the nature of medicine or the need for pharmaceuticals. My husband has a very rare condition that's killing him, and he's on all kinds of crazy pharmaceuticals, and they basically are just giving him life. For how long, I don't know, but if he were to stop taking them, he would die. And he's dying on them, but at a much slower rate. So I do see the value of medicine and pharmacology, just not the corporations that want to push all this crazy stuff for a profit, right? We're just only increasing their wallets, basically, as we irreparably harm our children. And for somebody to just not understand that, as a libertarian, is mind-blowing to me. And in our conversation with Chase, he's like, I'm broadly a libertarian. Well, that's a pretty broad definition of something. So how is RFK Jr. not also then by that definition broadly libertarian?
That statement bothers me. I might have heard him say that at some point. I don't remember it though, but him saying that really bothers me. And the reason it does is because a libertarian is actually something very specific. It's not broad. It's very specific.
Yeah.
It's simple, which is why I think he could get away with saying something like broadly. To me, what that says is libertarians might find my platform in alignment. That doesn't say to me that I'm a libertarian. So trying to keep things simple, it definitely does seem, from all the critics that I've seen, I've heard, I've talked to, the two topics that people have an issue with Chase and the Tremont campaign, just Chase himself. I'm not going to bring Tremont into this. That's a whole different discussion. But just Chase is his opinion on COVID, everything, and what he personally did during that time, and the acceptance of pharmaceutical therapies for children. That's personally my two issues I have. And trying to keep it separate from my personal opinion from my opinion as a representative of the Libertarian Party. I myself am chair of my county affiliate. I also am involved in communications for the Utah party. So personal and professional opinions separate, not different, but separate. I think the unwillingness to address those things is a big red flag to me. This wasn't, I mean, Bill Weld got a ton of support in this party and didn't have quite the backlash that this is getting. I also received many emails with the disapproval of this decision. It's really concerning to me how many people are stating he is a libertarian just as an absolute statement. So just for clarification, you are not saying that he doesn't hold libertarian positions at all? That's not what you're saying, correct?
No,
Okay.
he does. Broadly, he does.
Broadly. That word is so weird to me. That's a weird statement.
It very much is. And when we took him off our ballot, we had a huge influx of donations and tons of amazing feedback. There still was a little bit of negative feedback, but we had an increase in the amount of money that was coming in revenue and communication. We had even more support for the announcement of RFK. Our emails were just flooded, and I've received I want to say $50 worth of new reoccurring donations every month. And for a small little third party, that's incredible, right? Yeah. So the more income and revenue that you have, and we've not even really widely publicized this in a huge way to our membership. We did one, and we had already received more money before that point than the one. I received almost nothing from the one push that we did make. So I think it's just so interesting when people are like, oh, the members in Colorado. Well, I get member emails. I think I know what they say. I think I know who is in the majority and who is not. Yeah. And I think not one person speaks for the members of Colorado. I think individuals speak for themselves. And I think that's really important to note. But in my opinion, from what I'm seeing in the feedback I'm gathering as chair of this party, this is the direction most members who take the time to write me want to go. There's a few people who have written that don't. But like I said, compared to after taking Chase off and putting I was so surprised at the support that we got there. And I want to make it clear, I have a vision for the Party of Colorado. And that vision is to radically change and reshape the political landscape of Colorado through confrontational politics. You hear that vision statement, now understand everything I've done. Does that not fully align under that? My own board was like, this is why this works. It totally does that. So what it does, it essentially puts Colorado in play as a swing state. Why wouldn't the Libertarian Party want Colorado to be a swing state and be a deciding factor in votes across the nation and be more relevant than we've ever been nationally, ever? Not only that, the other objective that it hits, we've been hitting the GOP here hard. My pledge was not easy for them. You would think that it was. It wasn't. It was like handing them a stick of dynamite and it's blown up in their face, and it's great. It's perfect. Yeah. It's the perfect Trojan horse. Now, I did offer the pledge to the Democratic Party, and they've done nothing but ignore us. And I bet I bet they wish to God they could ignore me now, but they can't. So Biden was only up like 1 point over RFK in Colorado. I have a huge amount of independent voters, and the swing vote definitely decides votes here in Colorado in every district and as a state as a whole. So our political landscape, we're very familiar with what we've got going on here as far as parties, data, how people vote. We're actually tracking these things, considering them, compiling them every year, and really watching what is going on here. This is the first time ever in the history of the Libertarian Party of Colorado that somebody is tracking voting data, what that looks like, breaking it all down, and actually trying to use it as political strategy, which begs the question of what were they doing before? Nothing, right? Nothing. So I guess
Nothing successful anyways.
Exactly. And so I guess we could hand the party back to these people, but I'm not really sure what they think these people are going to do with that. I guess we can just go back to doing work at board meetings once a month and then not doing anything between board meetings and then doing work. By doing work, I mean they used to just assign, you do this, you do this, you do this once a month, and then people mostly didn't do it. And so it was like they'd rather have the title than give a shit about liberty and trying to like actually become competitive. And you know, there's people saying, oh, you all should resign. Cool. And hand it back to them for what? You have to, this is the point at which we have to pick. We can pick inter-party politics, or we can pick confrontational politics on the state and national level. You can't have both of them. It has to be one or the other. And today, right now, we have to decide what is that going to be. And if it's going to be this inter-party drama bullshit, then don't cry when you're fucking walked into rail cars and mass executed. My hands, my conscience will be clean.
Yeah. We can high five each other in the camps. So just to wrap up this part, because even though it's a massive part of it, we don't have unlimited time. But first thing I would like to point out is in all of the criticism of Chase, not a single one of it had anything to do with him being gay, people.
Yep.
Because that's not the problem.
Not at all.
Nobody with legitimate criticisms of him has anything to do with being gay. I'm sure there are some people in the party that has an issue with it. I don't really care. That's not my position. And as you can see with what Hannah had said, that's not her position, or it seems like her board's position. So everyone using that argument, you can stop. You're embarrassing yourself. The second thing I would like to point out is, even though I completely agree, he is, I agree with the critics in that he is or has more libertarian positions than any other candidate. That doesn't mean he's a libertarian. The two things I can't get rid of is how he acted during COVID with the masks and being in favor of the medicines, the word I don't want to use to trigger the bots on YouTube. But
I'm sorry, did I do that?
No. Okay. You're fine. I'm never going to get monetized anyways, so it doesn't even matter. But even the way I see it is, even though he doesn't want government mandates or state mandates, that it doesn't matter, because I can't trust his judgment, because he couldn't see through the propaganda. And that's a big concern to me after the Smith-Mundt Act was repealed and the federal government can now legally propagandize us, which is very clear through mainstream media, as you can see that everyone believes, or everyone says, that nothing is wrong with Biden. And that's just not true. So even though he doesn't want these things, I can't trust his judgment. And if he cannot see through the blatant propaganda, then how is he going to be able to take that on if he were to win? I can't accept that. Now, finally, just to wrap up, and I agree that the one position I refuse to change or give leniency on is the position on transing children. Trans children do not exist. That is not to say that children cannot develop gender dysphoria. It's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that to radically alter a child is irreprehensible, and it's not libertarian. Children cannot consent. And while parents do have the ability to consent for them, that is not one of the things that they can consent to for their child. Because it's not a far leap if they can legally abuse their children. It is not a far leap for the parents to consent for those kids to do other things that we do not support. It's something I am willing to unbudge on, and since he is as well, and also, and I'll land my plane with this so we can keep moving. But what bothers me is, even if that is his position, he's not aware enough to know that by using that as a platform, it's going to be insanely unpopular. So he can't even not talk about it publicly to gain support. It's actually doing the opposite. So I believe that anybody who doesn't want to support him, regardless of what delegation said, should have the right to be able to do so, especially as libertarians are individualists and should not be forced to follow some larger organization. And the last thing I'll say is just that if you have the same opinion as this very clearly tyrannical system, you probably want to rethink that, because it's not the right opinion.
I would agree with that.
So, and then, so you now have not only Chase and Termont not on the ballot, and that part's official, correct? Or is it?
There's a lot of things. So the National...
Yes, what can you say about it, at least at this point?
The National Secretary submitted paperwork on behalf of the state party, which also makes me wonder, well, why doesn't the National Secretary do it to the other states who aren't putting Chase Oliver and Mark Tremont on their ticket? It makes me just wonder, because there's like 7 other states now. So that paperwork has been submitted, but will it stay submitted is a whole different thing, because now that's the issue I can't necessarily talk too much about. And
that's understandable at this time. Everything's still fresh. I would definitely like to get you back, at a later date when things finish playing out, because I do believe this to be a monumental moment for libertarian history as well, which anyone outside the party is probably like, who cares? Well, I care, and it's my show. So, so obviously there is protest to removing Chase and Termont, but then supporting Kennedy. Now, is it the position, just for clarification, is it believed that Kennedy is a libertarian?
No, but he could be broadly considered one. It's a strategic alliance, and I really want to see how effectively we can push liberty to the forefront of the American voter. This is the vehicle in which that we can try to do that. That is the strategic partnership, and that is the goal. How much liberty can we advance and put in front of the American voter? How much can we help change and shape minds in the world around us? So that's really what the strategic partnership is. And I guess there's a guy on Devin. We did talk extensively, actually, about what just happened with Trump and all of that today. So we did cover that. Oh, what was it, like 20 minutes ago? So,
Well, at the beginning, and
yeah,
that's not to say that we won't do it again either. But there's more to this, and
yeah,
I'm also not a news show, so you know. But that is big news, Devin. So if you want to hang out and finish catching the show, I'm sure we will definitely bring it up at some point because it's incredible. I can't believe it happened. So
yeah.
as you were saying.
Yes. So, with that, it's a strategic partnership, and we want to push him as liberty as we can, as libertarian as we can, to try and advance ourselves through this vehicle if we can.
So I mean, to be fair, it definitely when I heard Kennedy, I was like, really, like Kennedy. Um, but once again, I waited several days and have only just recently been being vocal about my position and why. Um, I wanted to be sure, first of all, but I don't want a knee jerk reaction to this. So um, it kind of seems like no matter what, and any candidate that's supported is not up to the libertarian standard of libertarian. So I'm confused about that. But one question I do have for you is what criticism do you believe that you've heard is the most valid or something that sticks out in your mind?
Well, I definitely think it's worth considering whether or not bylaws were violated. I think that's the most fair criticism. I don't feel that we did, but I think it's worth looking at and investigating because truth fears no investigation. So in that, I
Based.
think that's the most that's the most important criticism, and I actually value that feedback tremendously. Most people do not take negative feedback well. I don't take positive feedback well. I would rather be railed on for all the things I'm doing wrong. I don't know what to do when people say I do something right. I'm like, why? This is not in my vocabulary. Like, what? I did a good job? What does that mean? So I really value the negative criticism. So the bylaws top of the chart for me on that. Also, I think it's worth the criticism of people saying, why Kennedy, it appears that you're selling out. And that it can be viewed that way, but we just don't view it that way. We view it as a tool to leverage power on the political stage and get our message out there, because at the end of the day, the message is what matters the most. More than party is the message that we can be free, we are free. You can stand up and you can free yourself. And Kennedy initially wasn't, you know, there's plenty of things that I've disagreed with, but also I've seen him move and shift and adopt these narratives. You know, for the first four planks of the pledge specifically deals with war, and it includes the Ukrainian stuff, the Gaza Israeli stuff. Like, it means we're pulling out all funding. We're getting out of the way. We're not drafting people. Like, anti-war is one of the loudest messages the LPCO pushes in our messaging. And he was not great initially on the Israeli stuff. I didn't like that. He also had a really crappy stance on the Second Amendment. I spoke with his campaign manager longer than I spoke with him, and I was blown away. She talked about being working in Miramar, and this whole like Liberty Coalition fought for independence, for freedom, to take back their country from a regime. They had this until 2021, and then the regime took it back and they pushed all these people into the jungles. And she was saying that friends of hers, people she worked with, the women and the children were paraded through landmine fields, and the soldiers would take bets on who would win, like who would be killed last, her personal
god awful
friends. And she's like, and now we have these guys. The Second Amendment's the most important thing. It protects you from your government. Now there's these freedom fighters 3D printing guns in the jungles of Miramar to take their country back. Like, she's like, I fully understand why the Second Amendment is what it's for. It's not for hunting. It's for protecting your rights. That's the most important thing. And so with her being his campaign manager, I'm like, okay, so in the pledge, we say something specifically to guns. And it's like, I will overturn any unconstitutional gun law and veto any, ones that come to my desk to be signed. That's huge. Do you know what a push that was from where Kennedy was to where he's like, now he's signing this, and it wasn't just the LP. No, it's his team around him that's like, hey man, like, no, actually you got to get better on this issue, because this is the reason why this whole amendment exists to begin with. And I would say they're not like hardcore libertarian anarchists, okay? They're not. That's not what they are. But for what they are and the amount of pushing we've been able to get them to do to meet us closer to our goal. Like, how is advancing liberty is the purpose of this party? That's what David Nolan said. I'm sorry. That's what he said. Yeah, it would be great to get candidates in office, but we don't currently have the ability to do that in mass, right? Some states have more than others. So what can we do in the meantime to gain relevancy, to gain name recognition, to gain a relationship with the American voter that then they'll start trusting us to cast votes for us? How do we do that? It's not just, I'm going to be the chair of the board and some people will vote for us. No, how do you get their vote? Right? I'm an up-and-coming politician. I also want to know how to get their vote so I can become elected. That's the goal. So a political party should have that same goal as well.
I would have to agree. So I think you said some really, really important things. There are some people within the party, some people that I personally respect a lot. I know these people. They're smart people. They happen to be people who are against the decision. So I've tried to keep an open mind about things. I'm a reasonable adult, unlike some other people that I don't like or respect, but I definitely listen either way, even if I disagree. I am also on the side that I don't want to support a non-libertarian. So we agree there. I get that. As far as the bylaw things go, I keep hearing this about the bylaws, that they were broken. My understanding is that they weren't, and I was aware of that before even this conversation. But what bylaw was broken? If there is such confidence, which bylaw? Where's the evidence of what bylaw? I have yet to see that. And just for sake of how things change, I'm still open if you can produce the evidence, but I have yet to see it. So,
and the other side of that is, I'm pretty sure there's a national bylaw that states are autonomous. So if states are autonomous, why are LNC members submitting paperwork for candidates on other states' ballots? Are we autonomous or are we not? Because if we're not, like, we could just put that on the table and just be like, yeah, we're not actually. Like, we could just call it what it is. We could just be honest instead of hiding behind states are autonomous until to a certain point. Like, and if it's to a certain point, technically they're not autonomous. Like, there's also questions on the paperwork that's been submitted. I mean, through Colorado's state assembly, we nominate electors, and the delegates of convention, they nominate them. Those delegates at our state convention were not the delegates sent in on the delegate paperwork for the presidential paperwork. So we just violated party members of Colorado's rights. And it might actually be election fraud. Bylaws or election fraud? Like, and even if you think there's a bylaws breach, does that justify election fraud? I think that's quite a leap, an unexpected leap, I guess. So there's just, I have my own questions and my own points that I think where there's been some things that are done that are untoward as well. And I feel, for sure, the delegates and the rights of the electors were violated by submitting a paper without these people even being contacted. None of them were even contacted to say, would you sign this?
Well, that's quite an important oversight. Wow. Yeah, Colorado people, get involved, because this seems like there are things being done on behalf of you, with or without your permission, it seems. What bothers me is an insistence on sticking by the party. I'm not sure how you feel personally. I'll burn the party down if it means I get liberty. I don't care about the party. I do because it's here, but I have zero interest in turning into the other two parties. And I'm not sure, like, why we have to try to be them to beat them. That doesn't make sense to me. I have yet to see what principle has been not stood by in this. And once again, critics, let me know which one. I'm willing to change my mind. A principle, by definition, is a fundamental objective truth. I don't know what principle is not being stood by with the decision that Hannah, her EC, and everyone else is making. I don't see it. I'm open to it, but I don't see it. A fundamental objective truth is that liberty is better than tyranny. It's superior. It is the only moral direction. And I'm curious to what you would think about this, Hannah, but it's very clear that our governmental system, on the national level and in every state, has been co-opted and then retrofitted to criminals. While not maybe all, Thomas Massey is great, a few others maybe, but a large majority, I would argue, are criminals in one way or another, and the system will protect them and not us. So how exactly are libertarians supposed to move in an unethical system? Like, how can we do this the right way when our opponent doesn't follow the rules and also has the ability to change the rules at any point?
Tacitus said, the more corrupt the state, the more numerous the law, right? So the more laws you have on the books reflects exactly how corrupt the state is around you. And it's pretty corrupt. Do I think that we should participate in corruption? No, certainly not. That'd be crazy. But we should not be afraid to act and try to get done whatever we can get done in as on the level way as possible. And some things we're not going to be able to do because it's just like corruption that leads to jail. I don't advocate going to jail when trying to seek liberty. You missed the mark, friends, if that's the case. But, how are we going to operate in such a system? And all of these laws in themselves are unjust and therefore should be nullified anyway. And the other parties aren't scrapping over bylaws because they're too busy, fucking us over, um, taking away all of our rights, cajoling us and corralling us and beating us down. That's what they're doing. But sure, by all means, let's fight about bylaws because focus, right? The same people fighting about bylaws, though, I just want to reiterate, are probably not doing anything other than that. They're not getting out in their communities. They're not trying to make a difference. I have a lot of local activism under my belt. My town and my county is more free because I'm in it, because I fought the regime here, right? These people fighting about bylaws aren't making moves like that. And it's unfortunate because those brilliant minds could be put to something like crippling and destroying the state. But no, by all means, let's just destroy other libertarians, right? Because goals, because, hashtag vision or whatever. Like, no, the enemy is not me. The enemy is always the state, right? We're hardcore or anarchists here. Where's my Albert J. Nock lovers? Our enemy, the state, not our enemy, libertarians. I'm only so Ayn Randian.
Yeah. Well, and most of these thinkers definitely do have limits. So what do you hope ultimately comes from all of this? Realistically.
I really hope that we can continue to advance ourselves into the political landscape of Colorado and leverage the system against itself to free ourselves and advance liberty across Colorado. I'm in one of the worst Democratic stranglehold monopolies in the nation. And it's miserable here. It's awful. And I live 3 hours away from the most awful parts of it, but you can only escape so far. And I'm a 6th generation Colorado. Where am I going to go? Am I going to move somewhere else? I hate everywhere else. I love where I live. This is paradise. Like, I wouldn't even live in Miami over this. I love where I live. I have no choice but to stand and fight. And so I hope that on the other side of this presents a much wider avenue for me to bring this party down. And it gives me more to leverage around us so that we can push liberty in all the ways that we're able to. And I hope that we're able to come out of this and look like a serious political party, because we need one. If we're gonna run real serious candidates, we need a real serious party. And I hope people get real serious about being serious.
I think I would have to agree with you. It seems like there's people, I'm not sure if they just don't understand, because it took me all of 10 minutes to figure out why Kennedy. I mean, I didn't think, oh, he's the best libertarian.
But if you did, I got news for you. You might only be a broad libertarian.
Yeah. Oh, that needs to go on a t-shirt. I mean, and there's people that aren't critical about it, but also on the other side that are being like, Kennedy's the most like libertarian ever. And it's like, whoa, calm down. Don't go that far either. I don't understand, because I thought all libertarians understood how dirty this is. Like, politics is dirty and corrupt, and people lie and cheat and steal and all of these things. And this is none of that, but I don't understand why we couldn't ride his coattails. He seemed fine with it. I mean, he's going to use his name and money anyways. Why can't we just hop on those coattails and get something out of it? Because I don't know if anyone's noticed lately, we're losing. we're losing. And the regime doesn't want us to have, well, anything, including our lives in most cases. as what happened today with former President Trump. I talked to several Trump supporters. They also don't believe that he's like the best choice for the country. They don't believe he's the most freedom based person. I mean, he is a 1980s Democrat from New York who supported the Clinton Foundation forever. How is that person, a 1980s Democrat from New York, also the leader of the most extreme part of the Republican Party? So, I mean, I don't understand that. I never will. Either we have influence or we don't. And we've got to start somewhere. It's been 50 years of this party. We're not really any better off than when it started. Unfortunately, there's a lot of really good people in this party, and what's hanging on the balance is everything.
Mhm.
So I don't understand is even if you hate Colorado's decision, why aren't you saying, yes, something new? Let's try it. Let's go. So just to everyone listening, I don't get it. I really don't. I agree with Hannah in this. Redirect your attention and anger towards the state, not people that are sick of also losing and wanting to try something new. So,
I appreciate that.
Most definitely. And it seems as though that you would also be open to some legitimate concerns if somebody had a legitimate concern. I mean, you're easy to talk to.
Yeah.
You seem incredibly reasonable. So this was incredibly important for me to do because of what I had seen. And everyone should know, but when you and I had a conversation previously, we had talked about just because people have a loud voice doesn't mean that they are fully representative of everything. So keep that in mind, everyone listening or watching. Outside of exactly what is going on nationally, because now today has just kind of changed. It's changed the game for the worst. That's for sure. What would you like to see happen with your state? You know, a little. If you had the magic wand, what would you like to see, like immediately?
Immediately, I would like to see the Democratic monopoly stranglehold on this state cease to exist, because it affects everything. It affects our judicial system. It affects our local level stuff. I live in a red county, but you almost wouldn't know it, right? Um, I would just do anything to get rid of the tyranny that's ruling over Colorado, because it doesn't represent Colorado, and it's not at all founded on the ideals of the founding principles of Colorado, of which my family was an integral part in helping to shape the history of Colorado. And so I would love to repeal and roll back the tyranny that is the state that exists here. And it's not through the GOP either, because they're just as bad. And they have no one to blame but themselves for this Democratic stranglehold monopoly when they went after cannabis and gay marriage in the early 2000s. So you reap what you sow, and that's what you get. So if I could repeal anything, it would be that the Democratic stranglehold monopoly on the government, the tyranny that holds us prisoner, and the duopoly in general.
So same question, but the Libertarian Party. What would you, if you had the magic wand, what would you like to see?
I would love to see people get really serious about politics, and I would like to see them effectively move the party outside of internal party politics and take that fight to where it matters, which is the battlefield of state, local, and national politics. So taking your libertarian ideas and focusing instead of inward, focus them outward. Outward is the only way that we're going to win.
I definitely have to agree. I'm just confused at the backlash. Even if people hate it, even if they don't support it, I mean, you don't even have to support it or anything, but like calling for the disaffiliation, that blew my mind. Calling for all of you to resign, just all of the craziest things. And I just really don't understand it when anyone can talk to you and just ask why, and which is what we've done here. And you are doing it for liberty. So why are other people who supposedly care about liberty like just acting really catty and nasty in some cases, you know? One thing I would like to point out, which is also kind of why I stay in contact with Colorado people a lot, is your governor and Utah's governor happen to have some sort of working relationship more than most governors do through the National Board of Governors. And they have this really stupid campaign called the Disagree Better campaign. And it just sounds stupid. It is stupid, but it is a glorified struggle session is what it is. It's how to make people conform because you're being nice to them. And there are some very concerning things happening here in Utah, which now seem to be most likely on their way to Colorado. And that is infrastructure being built for smart cities, which are 15-minute cities.
Yeah.
Where everyone's social credit score gets tracked. We are watched 24/7. We cannot leave without permits. And every waking minute of everything is controlled. It's literally 1984 in our time. So apparently, from what I understand, Utah will have most of this in place for the whole world to see by 2034, which is why we're trying to bring the Olympics here. So, and the fact that Colorado's governor and Utah's governor are working so close together, this is something that should definitely be a concern of both of our states. If they have a relationship, we should have a relationship and be working together. Also, every other state has signed on to doing this. So everyone from any other state, what Utah is doing, what the state here is doing, is coming to your state, whether you like it or not. So it's better that you know about it. And I'll tell you right now, while we might be the front line on that, Colorado is the front line of actually trying to do something to change any of the terrible things that we're living under. So I would never tell people not to criticize. That's stupid. But until I can see Colorado doing something bad, Colorado LP, I'm not going to be disrespectful. Of course, do whatever you want. You're a libertarian, but it makes you look like an ass, not me.
You are free to make the decision, but you are not free from the consequences of making that decision.
Yes. So I guess we'll start wrapping up here. You have been absolutely wonderful with your time. So I think the final question I would, well, actually, there's two more questions, but what would you like the critics to know? What would you like to say to them if they were all in a room?
I would like to say to them that I'm not your enemy. I'm not personally attacking you. I have not done anything personally to you, nor will I make any personal attacks, nor will I do anything personally to you. If you feel you are being personally attacked or something is personally happening to you, over my decision in Colorado and the board's decision here, I need you to reflect about what that is actually saying to you. The party is not me. The party is not you. The party exists, but it is not us. It is not the individual inside of us. And it's super important to peel your ego away from an inanimate object like a political party. Yes, you can value it immensely. I know that I do. But it is not myself. And so I really would encourage the people who disagree with me to listen to the words that I'm saying, not take them as a personal attack or as a personal affront, and simply look at the black and white strategy of my vision for Colorado and executing that vision, using the party to interfere, to leverage our way onto the Colorado political stage. It has nothing to do with anyone or anything other than that. And I think it's really important, maybe in honor of our governors, to disagree better. I actually do think disagreeing is a lost art. And I'm the easiest person in the world to disagree with because I don't take it personally. I don't take it to heart. And I don't think you're a bad person whenever you criticize me. And I love criticism more than I like positive feedback. So I would just remind these people, and many of them I've worked with very closely, that same person that's always worked with you closely is still just the same person, just trying to get this done because I feel that it's right. And it is not a personal affront, nor is it a personal attack. There's nothing personal about it.
Well, I think that's well said. And, I might just have to chop that little section out of this interview and spread it around social media, which
I would be delighted.
doing anyways, but I think people do need to hear it. I do believe it is important to hear the other side, and I'm sure you agree with that. Well, the reasonable other side.
Yes.
Not all other sides of arguments are always worth hearing, but and it seems like you're open to listen. So, I mean, if people expect to be heard with their criticisms, they also can't expect to be assholes.
Yeah. Yes.
So there's that. It's if you want something done, but really the most important thing I think is, where are our priorities? I don't want people to get screwed over. I don't want the LP to act like the other two parties. I'm in this weird zone, but most importantly, I want liberty, and I'll do whatever it takes. And I think that anyone like that, regardless of what they're doing, as long as it's ethical, shouldn't be downplayed or shamed. That's insane to me. Because what happens when this is successful and everyone sees like, oh, we actually have some sway now. We might actually have a chance to make things better. So, any final words?
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been such a wonderful conversation. And I like that you were initially a little skeptical, like, I don't know, it seems a little sketchy, but you were still willing to hear us out and digest the conversation. If you are in Colorado and you're deeply concerned with the state of affairs going on here, like he mentioned, 15-minute cities, we track all the legislation that goes through the state capitol every legislative session. There was over 10 bills dedicated to smart cities. Jessica Fensky, Forest Mommy in Arvada, has watched them do legislation on her local level, the city of Arvada, to pass 15-minute cities. This is a huge issue, and this is just one issue among many. Like I said, we track every bill that goes through the legislature during its session. There's a huge attack on liberty here in Colorado. And if you're deeply concerned with that and you want to either get involved or you want to just help us out because we're involved, going to lpcolorado.org and giving us a donation is so helpful. I can't even tell you how helpful that is. But if you're a warm body looking to get active, you can also go to lpcolorado.org and you can click on contact us and you can fill out the form and you can let us know all the ways that you can help us as a party join in the fight. The legislative session is always really fun to participate in. We're running 47 candidates this election. I'm one. We always need candidate help. And of course, our candidates all need money. So if you go to our website, you can find out all of our candidates. You can find out all about the things we're doing. And you can get involved there, or you can just simply donate. Like, you may not have any other time, but you may got a couple of bucks, and you know what? No donation is too small. And also, no donation is too large. Well, actually, it technically is. You can only give the max donation of $3,300. But
damn the state.
I know. But if you really like what we're doing, these are the ways that you can support us. And we really appreciate a good conversation with hard looks at things that we're doing. So thank you so much.
Of course, I think this conversation is incredibly important to have, whether you agree or disagree. This is how we move the needle. And I mean, now we are part of the conversation, which I feel we've already won, so you guys are leading the charge in that respect. And I think a lot more states, regardless, should be following, even if it's not the same decision, because not every decision is going to work for every state, obviously. But what I think should be followed is the boldness and the willingness to try something new, because obviously what we're doing is not working. And you don't just keep doing the same thing. The only argument I can remember that we have yet to address fully is just the principle, standing by principle. From what I have seen so far, there is nothing unprincipled about this. However, there is something that it's arguing for, to stand by the procedure or to stand by tradition. That is not the same as principle. This is principled. You can disagree with it, but it is principled either way. So that's, kind of some of my final thoughts on that. But other than that, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in to another wonderful episode of Rise to Liberty. On your way out, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe, hit the share. I have wonderful conversations with all sorts of people. And also, the further this goes, the more likely Hannah is to come back. So make sure and get this out to as many people as possible if you found this valuable. Also, our big tech overlords have made it very, very difficult to be able to find you guys, to be able to find new subscribers, get this out to other people, share the world, share these ideas to the world is what I meant. So thank you so much for tuning in. You can find everything at risetoliberty.com/links. That will bring up the master link. And we've got some other good shows coming up. In relation to this show, I do have somebody who I do trust, David Feit, who is coming on as the opposition to this. He's one of the few people I feel like I could actually discuss the opposition to and have it be respectful and intelligent, not emotional. So there will be a discussion of the other side of this from somebody who is on the other side. So make sure to stay peeled for that. Go check out LP Colorado. Go to risetoliberty.com/links. Now, Hannah, I ask everyone this question because eventually I'm going to get a large supercut put together. But why does liberty matter?
Liberty matters because when you don't have the power over yourself, you have absolutely nothing.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much for gracing all of us with your time. hang out for a second while we close this out. Everyone else, until next time, stay free, my friends.